Israel saying that they've carried out a preemptive strike against Iran. We're getting reports from within Iran as well as from Iranian state media that there have been reports of several explosions in and around the capital city, Tehran. Let's bring in now Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's the Iran Program Senior Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. And it's striking that you were on our airwaves only a few hours ago, and now it seems as if this situation has drastically changed.
Indeed, and it's a pleasure to be back with you. This is just an indicator of how fast things can move in the Middle East. 2024 was a history-making year in the Israel-Iran rivalry, and it looks like 2025 is fast gearing up to rival that.
What do you make of this news coming in right now? Are you surprised, given some of the language that we heard from the president earlier, who even today seemed to be signaling to Israel to hold off on an attack?
Well, there's no doubt that the president wants a deal, and some of his language today and yesterday has been hinting at the potential of a limited Israeli military option happening regardless of his personal view. But I actually think, zooming out for a second, that the president may be oscillating through options in order to get the end state, we should say, that he still seeks, and he's clearly articulated since even campaigning for the presidency in term one, and that's a diplomatic resolution to the Iranian nuclear crisis. You had the president restore maximum pressure sanctions early this February. You had a lot of public and private diplomatic outreach. Much of the open source consensus says that the talks were really not stalled, but hinged on the one critical area of domestic enrichment in Iran, depending on what the Israelis may have hit, and depending on if there will be, a campaign of operations rather than just a single operation. The president may be able to parlay this into getting that which he wants.
Behnam, we are getting some lines in here. This is coming from Reuters as well, saying that Israel has been striking nuclear and military targets. That's according to a military official. We'll work to confirm that, of course, and this is still early days here. But what does that say to you? Nuclear and military targets, that could be a range of things. Is there any likely target you think that Israel would be focusing on?
Well, right before coming on air, what was floating on both Persian and English language social media was reports of strikes in and around the capital city of Tehran. Just east of Tehran, you have some major military installations, bases, garrisons, and also missile production and missile testing facilities. Just again to the east-southeast of the capital of Tehran, not in Tehran province, but just over. That might be one potential target. Iran, as you know, has the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. Ballistic missiles are how Iran responded and really struck Israeli territory in 2024 with those historic single-day operations. Perhaps the Israelis are working first militarily, then nuclearly. So to first militarily defang or handicap the potential ability for Iran to retaliate, and then go after a whole host of other nuclear facilities. And again, we don't know if this is an operation or a campaign, but if they said military and nuclear, it is much more likely that it's a whole host of sites rather than one site. And if in Tehran there's a host of military commands, military facilities, and even key political headquarters in the capital city, in that province, that could have been targeted as well. But one doesn't know the full strike package until you get a battle damage assessment, or until Iranian, American, and Israeli media agree as to what was actually struck.
Yeah, and Ben Taleblu here with us, with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Just looking right now at Iran, we're getting some lines in saying that they are reporting anyway that their air defenses currently at 100% operational capacity. That could be called into question because I believe during the last volley of strikes on Iran, it was said that Israel was targeting those air defense systems. That was months ago, obviously. We're also getting a line in now that Iran is holding a top security meeting. So what could we expect from Iran? Israel saying that it's preparing for a counterattack. Do you think that's likely?
It is indeed likely, and again, that goes back to the 2024 history-making year where the covert war, the shadow war between these two really crept out of the shadows from cyber and assassinations and sanctions into the overt kinetic space. The Islamic Republic of Iran, as you know, is the home to the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. It's also home to the largest drone arsenal in the Middle East. We've seen them use both of them in combined arms operations and layered attacks against much more shorter shorter range targets in the Middle East, particularly in Iraq and Syria in the past. Lest we forget, there was also the cruise missile and drone attack on Saudi Arabia in 2019. So they do have a little bit of operational capability there. Iran's air and missile defenses on the home front, however, which is basically the shield, if the missiles and drones are the sword, is nowhere as well integrated and effective as Israel's tiered air and missile defense system. What Israel took out in October is largely believed to be several units of the Russian S-300 long-range surface-to-air missile defense system, as well as the Iranian variant of that, the Bavar 373. There has been no information provided about Iran's other shorter to mid-tier air and missile defenses that guard some of its nuclear facilities that heavier planes would have to hover over to effectively tunnel, penetrate deep, and destroy. That being said, some of those surface-to-air missile defense systems are composed of three different units. You can have a quote-unquote functional kill against those units simply by blinding the radar or taking out one of them. Iran, since last October, has been trying to Frankenstein piecemeal these air defenses back together. I think we've been watching that in real time. There's been allegations that Iran may have gotten great power support to help rebuild it. But I think certainly there's quite a bit of hyperbole in that statement that you quoted the Iranian official news agency saying that their air defenses are 100% operational, because even when they were 100% operational back in October, Israeli planes basically had an uncontested ability to fire their munitions largely from outside of Iranian territory against a multitude of targets that included radars, missile production facilities, as well as, of course, those air defense units with those functional kills.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, we are likely to get different types of information and different types of reports from each side here, with each side likely wanting to project strength. I do want to ask you about the timing here. And, obviously we mentioned, and we were speaking with Barbara about this, that we had just heard today that the president was still urging Israel not to go through with these strikes, that he did believe that there was a chance that these negotiations that have been ongoing for weeks now could get to a breakthrough. But I think at the same time, walk us through what you think Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu might be thinking. And there's been a lot of discussion as well about the fact that Iran, in terms of its proxies in the region, is probably at one of its weakest points that it's been in quite some time.
Indeed, as an Iran watcher, I'll tell you that the regime there's multiple measures of Iranian weakness, whether you look at the economy, society, the environment, the massive chasm between state and society inside of that country, as well as, of course, the beating its proxies took abroad, the handicapping of those long-range air defenses, the strikes against the missile production facility.
I believe we do have that line back up now with Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's the Iran Program Senior Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy. And thank you for being on with us tonight and getting that statement there from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It's interesting, that last line saying, let me be clear, Iran should not target U.S. interests or personnel. We did see the U.S. beginning to move personnel out of various different countries in the region. Does that suggest to you, and there in that statement as well, that they think, even though the U.S. being very clear tonight that they're not involved in the strike, do you think there is a worry that the U.S. might at some point be dragged into this brewing conflict here?
Apologies for the technical glitch there. Certainly, it is something that U.S. policymakers, defense planners have been thinking about and indeed worrying about for quite some time, when much of not just the diplomatic facilities, but many of the military bases ringing the Islamic Republic, particularly those around the western part of the Persian Gulf, were built or rehabbed. Iran did not have the ballistic missile or drone arsenal that it does today. You have had the commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Force, the man with his finger on the trigger of that largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East, touting for many years that American bases are quote-unquote like meat under teeth. The Islamic Republic, if you remember, in response to the killing of Qasem Soleimani in January 2020 by the first Trump administration, launched the single largest, at that point, ballistic missile attack on a U.S. position in U.S. history by firing 16 short-range precision strike ballistic missiles. Thank God no one died in that attack, but there were over 140 traumatic brain injuries. Vis-a-vis this strike, U.S. policymakers are concerned of obviously, the potential for the Islamic Republic to want to widen the front, to hold America or others responsible for the Israeli strike. Second is, of course, if the Islamic Republic does not widen the front and doubles down on the kind of operation you saw on October 1st, which is a large ballistic missile volley designed to overwhelm Israeli layered air and missile defenses, which after that October attack is now complemented by a THAAD battery, another advanced American ballistic missile defense system manned by several Americans, actually, on Israeli soil. They want to make sure that the Iranian counterattack is tracked, detected, and destroyed. Lest we forget, if this is really indeed a campaign, as you in the reporting has been suggesting, Iran is likely going to look to find a way to kind of save face, but without losing its head. But that doesn't mean a retaliation from the Islamic Republic will not be lethal or dangerous or troublesome. This regime certainly understands it's outgunned, but the weight it has been able to survive for so long while continuing its hostile and revisionist foreign policy towards Israel and America in the Middle East is by taking exactly these sorts of initiatives. And they understand they are down, but they're trying to signal they're not out.